Today in Hawkeye's House of Horrors, that's Hawkeye, I'm going to bring to you the latest horror film of 1980 that I think is really good. The ones that are the best of that particular year. And that is Ken Russell's Altered States. Just watched it, finished watching it uh, earlier in the afternoon. Third time in my life. I got to this film late in my life. Those three times I've watched in the last year. So I didn't watch this one as a youngster at all. Um, but yeah. Now, this is not really your typical horror film of 1980. This is definitely more of a film that I could see the likes of David Cronenberg directing. It's much more of a body horror. It's definitely not like a slasher guy running around with a knife killing people. Nothing like that. It definitely has got some science fiction elements going on with it as well. And for a horror film, at times it's a little talky too. But I find the talk interesting, the dialogue. But I believe Ken Russell himself even said there's a lot of dialogue in this film. But definitely at other times in the film, there is no dialogue at all. And that's what really stands up for me in this film is those moments. And they are the hallucinations that the main character is having. Now, as I said, it was directed by Ken Russell. He had directed Gothic as one. Another one I know he did that I really enjoyed was Tommy by The Who. I think that was 1975, but it was also a very visual film, much like Gothic as well. So they made the right choice in getting a director with a nice visual flair that he has, how he's able to bring the story out on the picture for you. He's very successful at that. So they did a really good job with this screenplay and getting a director that does that. Now, the screenplay was written by Paddy Chayefsky. Uh, Now, originally he wanted to do this as a screenplay. Now, he's actually won three Oscars for writing throughout the years, and was I know he did back stuff back in the 50s. This was actually his last film he did a screenplay for. But a couple films I know he did that are just amazing. He won Oscars, I believe, for both of those, and that's Marty with Ernest Borgnine. An amazing, top-notch performance by Borgnine in that, as well as Network with William Holden. Uh, a great movie. I think that was 1976, that one. Um, but anyways, he wanted to make this into a screenplay, but originally Columbia was actually going to produce this film. It ended up being Warner Brothers, but a producer at Columbia actually suggested that he should write it into a novel first and then work on the screenplay, and then it would be released after that. So he actually wrote this as a novel first. Chayefsky disowned the film and actually had his name removed from the writing credits, sort of. It's credited to Sidney Aaron, which is actually his true given name. I think Sidney Aaron is his first and his middle name. Um, but it was with conflicts that he had with the director Ken Russell. Um, Originally, actually, the film was supposed to be directed by Arthur Penn. That would have been interesting as well if he was able to make this into a film. But in the end, he left the project due to disagreements that he had with the screenwriter Chayefsky. So I'm certainly not going to sit here and say Chayefsky must have been a jerk, hard to get along with. It may have been he was just, he wrote this, so he must have had some nice, powerful, strong emotions or um, ideas of what the film's going or doing, and perhaps the directors disagreed with that or had a different frame of mind. I'm not sure, but it seemed to be a reoccurring thing with this particular film here. Yeah, and one thing that I found quite funny as I read that Russell said his agent told him he wasn't actually the first choice to direct this. He was actually the 27th choice, as other directors such as Orson Welles, Stanley Kubrick, and Steven Spielberg all turned this film down. In the end, though, as I said, I think Ken Russell is a really good choice to make this film. And those scenes, I will get to them, but those hallucination scenes, they really, it's like film purity, really, because he is, uh, there's like no dialogue. It's just images, sound, and fantastic music uh, right there on the screen there for you. Now, as I said, it was originally supposed to be distributed by Columbia, but it ended up being Warner Brothers. From what I can see, the reason is the budget kept climbing. It finally ended at $14.9 million. Originally, it was supposed to be nine. So they added another 6 million on top of that, um, in order to get this film made. And it was released on Christmas Day, 1980, which I find kind of interesting because this ain't a Christmas movie. And to me, that's a strange time to release this film to the public. In the end, they made 19 million at the box office, so it wasn't a total bomb. They made their money back, but it was a bit of a failure. It didn't get as much money as they were looking to get. Now, if it was released on the original budget, I would say that's a success right there, totally. But they were probably looking for another 10 mil at the box office that they didn't get. Now, I'll give you now a real basic gist of the story. So the story is about Edward Jessup. He's played by William Hurt, and this is actually his film debut, and he really does a terrific job in this. Um, Nobody was nominated for an Oscar in the acting department, but the main four people in this, they all put in top-notch performances and all do a terrific job in their roles. But he's studying schizophrenia, and he believes that other states of our consciousness are actually as real as our waking states. So what he's looking to do is tap into these altered states. Um, so at a certain point in the film, he goes to Mexico and gets a hold of a mixture, almost like peyote, um, and it does incredible things to Jessup. He actually then continues to take this drug while actually in an isolation tank, seeing what happens. And he begins to sway actually out of his reality. But in the end, he decides to return to his complete, I guess, human form. Um, but this is really thanks to his loving wife, Emily, played here by Blair Brown. Um, Really great actor. She does a fantastic job in this. I remember her from Continental Divide with John Belushi, which was released a year after. With her, it's too bad. Maybe she did do a lot of other projects. I don't remember seeing her in a lot of stuff with, say, William Hurt. I remember him in a lot of stuff, but her, I don't. And it's too bad because I think she's a great actor. And I don't know. I want to see more stuff that she was in. And definitely then to get more into the characters of the Jessups. So that's Edward and Emily. First, Edward, you can tell, man, this guy, he's brilliant. But at the same time, he's very troubled. And he lives his life to find serious questions he's thinking about. And the one, big question in the film is him finding these altered states to, as I said, tap into them. And he's also a bit of a prick, too. So, yeah, he's not the greatest, warmest character, but that's interesting because Hurt does a terrific job in bringing that out on the screen there for you. Now, his wife, Emily, she's also brilliant, and totally in love with Edward. Um, it's interesting as well because she wants a family and really wants to go on the road of what we call a normal life, family, kids, uh, all of that. She wants that with Edward. But unfortunately for her, Edward is totally focused on finding these altered states of mind. Now, the two other big roles in the film that are really great performances as well is Bob Balaban, who plays Arthur Rosenberg, and Charles Hayde. I always remember him from Hill Street Blues. He plays Mason Parrish, and they help Jessup along the way in his experiments. Now, with these two characters, what I love about them really is when they fight with each other and they get really heated and excited and they're both talking at the same time in one shot. It's great, it's funny, and I love it, and it's interesting. I haven't seen that or remember seeing that in a lot of other movies, people fighting, and it really works here. Now, the score in this film, this was actually nominated for an Oscar, the music, and it's done by John Corigliano. It was conducted by Christopher Keane, but I found the music was really, really good. And it was actually unnerving, creepy, and it blended wonderful with the images that Russell put on the screen there for you. And as I said before, the it's the hallucination scenes, and the music jumps out and stands up, along with what you see on the screen. Um, but they're yeah, as I said, like it's pure film at that point. Um, they're done so well visually, very dramatic, and just blend so well with the music that Corigliano has written for the film. Now, as well, I found the film moved very well through the years. The beginning part of the movie, it's actually going through the 60s and the 70s at a pretty good clip. Um, it's going by quite fast, um, and there is very little fat on the meat of the story. You're just given exact important stuff to know. Um, for example, you never see them get married, you never see her pregnant, and you never see the children at any other age than what they are in 1980, from what I remember. Interesting, one of the kids of the Jessups is actually played by Drew Barrymore. This is before E.T., so this is actually her first film she was in. You can tell it's her, and she's quite young in this, so that's cool as well. Drew Barrymore, real young Drew Barrymore, is in this film as well. Now, the film definitely has some very religious overtones going on, uh, like the Book of Revelations going on in the film. Um, you know, just to go along with some of that wonderful imagery as well. Um, and with that as well, it's got very much influenced by Stanley Kubrick's 2001, like the Stargate sequence. There's a scene where William Hurt gets a cut on his hand, and the Stargate sequence is like coming out of his cut towards the screen. Um, and definitely the end hallucination, the final one, it's very much got that influence going on, and it works wonderfully. It wonderfully put together, as well as the editing for this film. I thought was terrific, and I was shocked. I thought it would have got nominated for an Oscar for that as well, for the editing, because it's really good. It was done by Eric Jenkins and an uncredited Jack Harnish. They edited the film. Yeah, because as I wrote down here, thought that the mixing of different images flashed to the next or blended together on the screen kept my eyes locked on the screen. It really did a good job in doing that and, you know, following the story. And then I see as well Dick Smith, Carl Fullerton, and an uncredited Rick Baker did the makeup for the film, and the special effects were by Bran Farren. Uh, Big thumbs up to those as well, the effects and the makeup. Some of the, like I must say, some of the effects don't may not hold up as well today as they did when a film was released, but it still holds up pretty good. And the whole body horror thing going on, like the growth coming out of his arm and stuff, yeah, that's effective and very much like I could see David Cronenberg, as I said, direct this film. Yeah, and I see as well when I was getting things ready for this review, I had read this was Ken Russell's first film he made in Hollywood. And I don't know. I wonder if he was expecting to hate it, but he actually really enjoyed it. And interestingly, he says the team that he worked with, they never complained or talked about money at all. So he really enjoyed his experience on this film. So that's Altered States, a really good film that, hey, I'm going to keep going back to that film in my movie watching. It's unfortunate I got to it late, but hey, I've seen it 3 times. That's five, 3 times in the last year. So it's a really good film, and I had a blast watching it. And I can't wait to watch the next film. I might just sit down and watch it right now and bring that to you. So, anyways, thanks for coming back to Hawkeye's House of Horrors. And once again, remember, stay scared.